Today we're going to run through all 32 NFL teams as it relates to landing spots for running backs. Okay, we're going to break them down into tiers. We're going to go from the GOAT tier all the way down A, B, C, D. I think we cap at D, and then the WOAT tier. And we're referring to running backs in Dynasty fantasy football for their landing spots in the upcoming NFL draft. This obviously does not factor in draft capital because we don't know that yet. But the things I'm looking at for the most part are the current talent levels of the starter in that situation already, like the depth chart talent, their contract length, the starters that are there or the players that are there, how long they're likely going to be there. And then a little bit of head coaching, the scheme, run-heavy approach, offensive line, those types of things. So we're going to quickly run through all 32 teams and how I grade their landing spots for rookie running backs. And tomorrow, so we got a couple things, right? Tomorrow, Andrew's going to do this exact same video, but for wide receivers. And that'll be a fun one because there's probably a lot more interesting wide receivers and the number of them they're going to get drafted and landing spots to go to and just overall starting wide receivers in the NFL. Anyways, so that's tomorrow. And then the next day is round one of the NFL draft. And we will be streaming for the entirety of round one. So all 32 of the first picks. That live stream is already set up. So go click the link in the bio down below, hit the little notification bell on it, and it'll let you know when we go live Thursday night. It'll be 6 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be a pre-show for about an hour. Then 7 p.m., the draft kicks off, and it'll be a whole lot of wild shit. We'll be in the studio, me, Andrew, Adam, as well as the rest of the BDGE boys kind of cycling in and out. As we produce it, we'll have the previous picks. We'll have our Dynasty rankings up on the screen. As players gets picked, we got a wheel going for different challenges and punishments and consequences that we got to do for each round. It's going to be a time. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a bad time for us probably, but a great time for y'all. So make sure you join us for that first round NFL draft stream. Let's get into thy film. So at the top of the tier list, we got the two GOAT landing spots. First off, we have the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're probably the 101 here because they let Tony Pollard walk, and they have just cones behind him. Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis. Not a single person in which if a talented running back gets thrown into the situation, they are not going to become the starter right away. This is a good offensive line. This is a very good offense. This is just a spot where a rookie running back can produce and produce at a very high level immediately. So Cowboys, and maybe they still try to add like a veteran running back. I don't know, but none of these dudes are making me shake on that depth chart. Dallas Cowboys, the 101. Also in the GOAT tier, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this was written up prior to the J.K. Dobbins signing. They bring in Gus Edwards. It's a very good chance that is a one-year deal. The rest of the depth chart is absolutely trash. Any rookie running back can come in and take a ton of touches ASAP. You're talking about a super run-heavy offense with Harbaugh and a head coach, Greg Roman. They've been investing into this offensive line with really high picks for like the better part of a decade. Now it feels like. Now, of course, listen, J.K. Dobbins is coming off of major injuries in back-to-back years. He's probably more close to on his way out than getting back into his prime. Gus Edwards, he's old. Again, probably a one-year deal. Maybe they use him as like a battering ram. But if you're going to tie a dynasty running back to an offense at this point right now for the long-term projection, the Chargers, they're probably on the teetering of GOAT tier and A tier. And again, I did make this prior to the J.K. Dobbins signing, but neither of those signings between him and Gus Edwards scare me whatsoever, okay? And there's a lot of linkage between Blake Corum, obviously previously playing under Harbaugh, at Michigan, going to the Chargers, and that'd be kind of nice for the Blake Corum peoples out there. Let's move to the A tier. The A tier, I have the Arizona Cardinals up. James Conner is an unrestricted free agent after this upcoming year, and it feels like he's been on his way out for about 5 years, but he has proved all the doubters wrong for a very long time. Eventually, Father Time is going to catch up, and it'll probably be after this final year. They've got Amari DiMercato. They've got Michael Carter, so they got nothing real on the depth chart. Again, thinking about this, a long-term play. If you get put into the Arizona Cardinals offense this year, you're probably the starter next year if you're any good, and now you are linked up with Kyler Murray. Now you're linked up with this offense that they're building around probably Marvin Harrison after this draft. Like this is an offense on the up and up on a team that you want to be on for running backs in terms of opportunity. Kansas City, the Chiefs, are also on this list. I know I'm a fan of Isaiah Pacheco. I think he is the real deal. But at the end of the day, he's a 7th round pick, which also means his contract is not going to be long. Maybe they extend him, maybe they don't, but they got nothing else. Jerick McKinnon's on his way out the door. CEH, I don't even know if he's going to be here for another year. But that also goes to the point of like Pacheco is a 7th round pick, meaning they are just open to playing the best player at any time. I also think Pacheco could probably use a little bit of a side piece to him. I think he could use a Robin to his Batman, and this is just an offense you want to attach yourself to. So if a Kansas City Chiefs running back gets taken 3rd or 4th round, the eyes need to be open. And this is, of course, a fucking fantastic landing spot for them. The Las Vegas Raiders are the last team in the A tier. They have Zamir White, who played well down the stretch last year. They signed Alexander Mattison, but like you're worried about Alexander Mattison being the reason that your rookie does not play and or play well, then your rookie's just got a problem in his own right. Okay, so the Raiders are probably going to be looking at a new quarterback by next year. I don't know how long Zamir White's cut out to be in this league. I just think the Raiders are like a nice landing spot where you don't have any imposing talent right now that could steer away a really talented rookie. So I love the landing spot in Las Vegas for a rookie running back. Moving down to the B tier. First up, we have the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know this might seem counterintuitive because of how bad they are. Chuba Hubbard contract expires after 2024. Miles Sanders, he's gone after this year. No fucking doubt about it. They could save $7 million in cap by cutting him after 2024, and I think they would probably be fine saving $0 and cutting him after this year. He's quite literally was like the worst signing of the entire offseason last year. It's an uninspiring situation, but again, it's a backfield that is like super ambiguous, lack of talent, and by next year, both of these guys might be out of here, and the offense will be way higher in terms of them being on an upward swing than they are at this point. So this landing spot has a very wide range of outcomes, but I think it has some sneaky upside, despite how down bad they are at the moment. All right. New York Giants, also a team extremely down bad, also a team that lacks any real talent in the backfield. They signed Devin Singletary to like a 2-3 year deal. They have Gary Brightwell as their 2, and that should kind of tell you all you need to know. So if they take a running back early in the draft, he could work his way into a massive workload over the second half of the year. The Los Angeles Rams are on here, and I know what you're thinking. Kyren Williams. I agree. I'm in on Kyren Williams for redraft purposes this year. But similar to Pacheco, with Kyren Williams, like when you are a later round pick, your contract, you're not a first round contract where you have 4 years plus the team option, so you're probably there for 5 years. Your contract is more like 3 years. 4 if you're lucky. Kyren Williams missed his entire rookie year. You got to remember that. And then he played his second year. So the teams and the players don't have those options to stay onto the team afterwards. You got Ronnie Rivers. You got Zach Evans. I just think this is also another running back room that could use another player. And their offense was surprisingly really good last year. Okay, so you kind of want pieces of this offense. So I like the Rams spot as a lander. Okay. The last one up in this tier is Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rachaad White, also similar to Kyren Williams, very good last year. I think he kind of proved to us that he's not that good of a runner. He's a great pass catcher, and he can kind of do it all for you, but I think they want a better 1 and 2 down runner, and maybe on the goal line. All right, they have Chase Edmonds and Sean Tucker. So again, once you get into like the BC tier, what you're really doing is hoping that your guy can carve out a role in year one. You know, I'm not saying that these guys will be starters in year one. That is for the A tier. That is for the GOAT tier. B tier, you're looking at the positives where it's like, all right, we have a good starter, not a great starter, and really nothing behind him. And that's where I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of fall into that range. Rachaad White, again, talented guy, athletic guy, can catch passes, but I think they definitely want to use a second runner here that takes more of the early down work because Rachaad White's not that efficient of an actual runner. Moving down to the C tier. All right, we got the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know they just signed Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's old, though, right? And they can save $7 million after 2024 if they move on from him. I think they'll probably ride his career out here in Baltimore, but Henry's another guy that usually needs a compliment to him, okay? They have Keaton Mitchell, who just tore his ACL, and then like Justice Hill, if he's even still there. So this feels a little bit more like the B tier, where it's like, okay, they already have an established starter, but we're looking for a second piece here. But Derrick Henry's more of an established starter than any of those other guys, which is why they fall down to the C tier. But again, looking at it long term, a rookie goes here, sure, maybe we're not anticipating production year one, but year 2, 3, 4, still on the rookie contract, I can get excited about a rookie being in that landing spot. Same thing with the Buffalo Bills. Like James Cook, he's going to be in Buffalo through the next 2 years for sure. They've got nothing behind them. Ty Johnson, Darrington Evans. It's a great offense, of course, and I think James Cook is another dude that you want to complement with a different style of running back, like especially on the goal line. Clearly, they did not want to use James Cook on the goal line whatsoever last year. Now, of course, the landing spot's a little bit tough just because you are still competing with James Cook for touches, who broke out last year. Josh Allen will always take goal line touches, but if they get a good running back, we saw what they wanted to do with Zach Moss. For whatever reason, Zach Moss did not work in that offense, and then he worked in Indy, and now he's going to work in Cincinnati. But what they wanted to do with Zach Moss, I still think they want to do. And I think this is a good landing spot, or C tier. C tier. It's not a great landing spot. It's the C tier, right? It's the mid landing spot. Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Etienne, clear starter, but they clearly wanted a compliment to Travis Etienne. Doug Peterson pretty much talked about it all offseason. They tried to do it with Tank Bigsby. He was dramatically bad last year, like one of the worst rookies in the NFL last year. But I still think that they try to plug that hole. This could be a decent landing spot. This could be a 1-2 punch. C tier. Minnesota Vikings, also in the C tier. Aaron Jones is on a 1-year deal. Ty Chandler, he'll be there through 2025. But for the long-term outlook, I don't see, like, there's a very, very real chance that Aaron Jones is actually just a 1-year player here. He's one and done, and then he's out. Maybe they sign him to another 1-year deal after this, but probably unlikely. There's a lot of unknown overall in the Minnesota Vikings offense, which kind of makes me steer clear of the situation. But C tier, just because there's nothing real tangible locked up long-term here. So if a talented rookie goes to Minnesota, I think that's something I could get excited about. Same thing with San Francisco. I mean, they just churn out fantasy players. Obviously, C-Mac is there. He's probably in San Francisco through 2025 based on his contract. But behind him, Elijah Mitchell's been fine, but really, really poor over the last year or so. I don't think they can depend on him. One injury to C-Mac opens up the door for an RB1 in fantasy. So it's like, sure, you don't want a rookie there this year, but long-term, I still think there is a little bit of upside. So San Fran is the last team in my C tier. The D tier is large. It is large and in charge. We've got the Cleveland Browns, who have Nick Chubb coming back from the ACL, so maybe he's not ready. Maybe he's kind of cooked, and maybe he's on the latter part of his career. They still have Jerome Ford. They have Nyheim Hines. They signed Deonta Foreman sneaky this offseason and Pierre Strong, so just not a lot of room for touches there. You got the Denver Broncos, who are kind of a team in flux right now. They still have Javonte Williams. They signed Samaje Perine last offseason and Jaleel McLaughlin. All three guys that I think deserve to be on an NFL roster and deserve to get touches weekly. So not a lot of room for a rookie there. Then you have the Green Bay Packers, who Josh Jacobs more than likely is going to be here for 2 years. I know there's a lot of chatter, and I even said this, I think, at one point or another before really diving into the contract. Josh Jacobs was almost definitely in Green Bay for 2 more years, and they signed him to be the workhorse there. A.J. Dillon re-signed too, and it's not that big of a deal. Again, Dillon is not a guy that I'm scared about talent-wise, but they did use him a shit ton on the goal line. He has led the team in goal line carries in each of the last 3 seasons. So between Jacobs and A.J. Dillon, I just don't see a lot of opportunity over the next 2 years for a rookie running back to really do anything. Same thing with the Houston Texans. They just signed Joe Mixon to a pretty lucrative deal that locks him in for minimum the next 2 years. They have Dameon Pierce, who I still think is really talented. Do they move on from Dameon Pierce? Do they trade him to a team like the Cowboys or whatever? Maybe, and maybe that opens up, a role similar to where Joe Mixon and Chase Brown were in Cincinnati. So, maybe there's room to have a 1-2 punch like that, but it's not a ton of room, and things have to break right in order for that to happen. Next on this list, we got the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so great offense. You want your fantasy running backs in that offense, obviously. Raheem Mostert, he is in Miami this year, and there's actually a good chance next year as well, based on his contract, because they're not really paying him much. Unless he turns into an absolute zero this year, coming off a 20-touchdown season, I doubt he's going to be a complete zero. He's probably here for 2 more years. Devon Achane is obviously on the come up, and then Miami's always been able to churn out a decent RB3, whether it's Salvin Ahmed with some bursty plays or Jeff Wilson kind of just fucking trucking dudes. So just not a lot of room for more playmakers and opportunity there. Next up, we got the New England Patriots. So Ramondre Stevenson, obviously their go-to guy. They did just sign Antonio Gibson, and Gibson's almost like a bad version of Ramondre now. They have Kevin Harris there. I just don't see a lot of room for someone coming in and really taking a lot of opportunity in that New England Patriots backfield, not to mention their team is just atrocious right now, so there's just not a lot of opportunity to have a lot of yards to begin with. The New York Jets, all right? You could argue that the New York Jets kind of belong in that C tier or the B tier, where I said they have the clear starter locked up with no real competition behind them. They got Breece Hall, of course, And then they got Izzy Abanikanda, who I was like whatever with. Some people were fucking enamored with him for whatever reason. The reason I put the Jets all the way down in the D tier, Breece Hall straight up is just the type of dude that gets a second contract at the running back position. He is just that next dude up in line to get that deal. He's probably going to be the Jets running back for the long term. So I just don't see any real upside to a rookie landing in New York. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee, clearly here for 2024. Did they pick up his fifth-year option? I don't know. Jaylen Warren, he's a restricted free agent after 2024, so they can pretty much bring him back if they want to. And then they just signed Cordarrelle Patterson, who I'm sure will get a little bit of smorgasbord of touches in Pittsburgh this year. Again, if a rookie goes to Pittsburgh this year, I see like literally zero opportunity for touches with Najee, with Jaylen Warren, with Cordarrelle Patterson there. So not a great landing spot, in my opinion, in Pittsburgh. The Tennessee Titans, also a D tier. Tony Pollard just signed. Tajay Spears obviously had a nice little breakout year last year. They still have Hassan Haskins, who fucking stinks. But those first two guys, I feel like, are the 1-2 punch for minimum the next 2 years. Okay, and they're kind of redundant. So it's like if they're both like 3-down assets. So I don't even know what type of running back the Titans can draft in order to like overtake those dudes in any downer situation. Okay. Last up on the D tier, we have the Washington Commanders, who have Brian Robinson, who have newly signed Austin Eckler, and those two are kind of like the perfect complement to each other that does not leave any open holes for a rookie running back. They have Chris Rodriguez, who they drafted, not long ago. So I don't know, not a lot. Like they get rid of Antonio Gibson, they put Austin Eckler into there, and it's just, again, not a high upside situation here. So that rounds out the D tier. Before we get into the WOAT tier, if you have not slid down the video and hit the button that looks like this, you will be in the WOAT tier. You would be my fucking WOAT, all right? So go down there. Let us know that you enjoy these videos by hitting this, and subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you want the wide receiver version of this tomorrow. WOAT tier number 1, Atlanta Falcons. Should go without saying. Bijan, top 10 pick last year. Also have Tyler Algier behind him. No room there. Next up, Chicago. The Chicago Bears. They just signed DeAndre Swift to a big contract. They still have Khalil Herbert, who is a good running back. And Roshan Johnson is just drafted last year, who is a 3-down skill set player as well, who has 3 more years on his rookie deal. So no opportunity there. Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, 12th overall pick. He ain't going anywhere. David Montgomery, shitload of touches and still talented on the goal line, on early downs. He ain't going anywhere. And I'm not even tripping. Craig Reynolds, kind of nice too for a running back 3. I kind of like Craigie Reynolds, all right? So no opportunity out there in Detroit. Philadelphia is the next team on the WOAT tier. Saquon obviously got the huge contract this offseason. So yeah, that there just is not anything happening there. Seattle, you got Kenneth Walker, and you have Zach Charbonnet. So you're talking about back-to-back second-round running backs. Kenny McIntosh, sure. I just like, if a rookie, it's just a meme at this point. If the Seattle Seahawks draft another running back, I can't imagine they use anything more than like a 6th-round pick on a running back. So no one's going to Seattle. It's a bad landing spot. Indy, same thing with Philly. Same thing with, these big-time starting running backs. Obviously just gave Jonathan Taylor the big contract last year, so he will be the featured fed big belly running back in Indy this year. And the last team on this list that I kind of went back and forth with in terms of what tier I wanted to put them in, either the D tier or the WOAT tier, ended up throwing them down here in the WOAT tier, and that is the New Orleans Saints. All right, so they have Alvin Kamara, and I just don't see how they get out of this contract with Alvin Kamara for this year. I think he's probably back in New Orleans for 2024. He has a cap hit to the team of $18.5 million, which is huge, but he also has a dead cap of about $18.2 million. So they don't actually save any money from cutting him. Next year, $29 million against their cap, $10 million dead cap. So they would save $19 million. So it's likely he's gone after next year, or they restructure or whatever, or he gets traded. But it'll be 30 next year. So they got Kamara for another year. Don't forget, they signed Jamal Williams to a 3-year contract last offseason. He was hurt a lot, but they started to use him down the stretch. Kendre Miller, who I think is a talented running back, they drafted him last year in the 3rd round. So you're talking about kind of a lot of moving parts here. Kamara, Jamal Williams, Kendre Miller was a rookie last year. I think you could have argued, if you look at the long-term picture, this was a D-tier landing spot, but like right now, I just don't see any opportunity. I don't know what direction the Saints offense is going into. So like, I don't want my rookies drafted to the New Orleans Saints. This is for sure a WOAT tier landing spot. All right. So I'll quickly recap this. We have the GOAT tier, the Cowboys and the Chargers. We have the A tier, the Cardinals, the Chiefs, and the Raiders. We have the B tier, the Panthers, the Giants, the Rams, the Bucks. We have the C tier, the Ravens, the Bills, the Jags, the Vikings, the 49ers. We got the D tier, the Browns, the Broncos, the Packers, the Texans, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Jets, the Steelers, the Titans, the Commanders. And we got the WOAT tier. You, the Atlanta Falcons, the Bears, the Lions, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Colts, and the Saints. If you disagree, if you want to come at me, do so in the comment section. But while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the button that looks like this. And make sure you click the link to the NFL Draft live stream round 1 and go turn notifications on just for that video, all right? It'll let you know when we go live so that you could join us because we'll be doing giveaways. We'll be giving away signed memorabilia. We'll be doing a little breakdown of our own NFL mock drafts before it goes live, and then breakdowns of every Dynasty rookie player that gets drafted throughout the first round. It'll be a whole lot of fun. So join us if you ain't got nothing going on Thursday night. Or if you do, this will be better. I promise you, all right? I love you. I'm out of here.